Hello guys, so today we're from tutorial 2 group 3 from international business management. We'll be discussing about national differences in economic development with the closing case of what ails Argentina. And as you can see, this is our team member. And here we are for the table of contents that we will be discussing today. So there's three sections that we will be discussed as it is critical thinking and discussion questions. And then there's case discussion questions and 10-point summary of case. Hope you enjoy.
I am Dinda and I will be presenting the first discussion question, which is what is the relationship among the property rights, corruption, and economic progress? How important are anti corruption efforts in the effort to improve a country's level of the economic development? So, first, let's take a look at the relationship between the property rights, corruption, and also the economic progress. First of all, strong property rights are very essential for economic growth as they ensure the security for the investors and also business. The second is the corruption. It weakens the property rights and also creating an uncertainty and also raising costs. Therefore, the corruption levels can deter both foreign and also the domestic investment by increasing the cost and creating an unpredictable business environment. The third one is the corruption also leads to a misallocation of the resources, diverting them from the productive uses and also reducing the efficiency. And then the anti-corruption efforts in the economic development plays a critical role in improving economic development by fostering transparency, trust, and also fairness. And the measures like enforcing laws and then promoting transparency and ensuring government accountability strengthen the property rights and attracting investment and also supporting the growth economic development also. And then in summary, reducing corruption makes a country more attractive to the investors and also promotes efficient resource use and creates a favorable environment for economic development. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer the question number two, where you are a senior manager in U.S. automobile company, considering investing in production facilities in China, Russia, or Germany. These facilities will serve local market demand. Evaluate the benefits, costs, and risks associated with doing business in each nation. Which country seems the most attractive target for the foreign direct investment, and why? Okay, let's break down this. The first one, we can see China first. China has a lot of benefits. The first one is large consumer market with growing demand for automobiles, and then established supply chain and infrastructure for manufacturing, and then government support for electric vehicles, favorable policies for foreigner EV investment. And then the cost of the China is high initial setup costs and regularly compliance expenses, and then potential joint venture requirement with China firms. China has also has risks. The first one is geopolitical tension, potential tariff changes, and intellectual property protection concern. So the conclusion of China is really attractive growth. Has really attractive growth potential and scale, especially for EV production. Though, though IP and regulation risks require mitigation and strategies. Okay, let's next to the uh, other country, which is Russia. Russia also has benefits. The first one is untapped market potential for economic cars and durable vehicles, and then lower labor and operational costs compared to Western Europe. This is gonna be a good positive things that we can consider. And then we can also consider the cost. The cost is limited infrastructure development to comparison to China or Germany. And then the risks are political instability and san- sanction from Western nation impacting trade. Current and also currency volatility and economic sanction can affect revenue stability. So the conclusion is it's really high risk, moderate reward moderate reward market, more viable for basic vehicle models if geopolitical risks are mitigated. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's continue to the third country for key market and assessment for foreign direct investment potential. Okay, the last country is Germany. We can break down the benefits first. The benefit is well developed infrastructure and skilled workforce in automotive engineering, and then close proximity to other EU markets, providing seamless trade access also. Okay, this is a really good thing, and we can also consider the cost first. The cost is high labor and production cost due to regulation and unionized workforce, and also has risk. The risk is lower consumer demand growth due to market maturity, however, stable regulatory environment. And the conclusion is Germany provides a low risk environment with established infrastructure, ideal for high end and technologically advanced vehicle, but has limited growth potential. Okay, the final recommendation is the most attractive target is China. Why? China, given its expanding middle class, rising EV demand, and market growth potential. Germany is favorable for advanced technology production but lacks high growth. Russia, through cost effective, carries significant geopolitical risk. So, I think the market can expand more and can get a success if we open it on China, because China is expanding the middle class and also rising EV demand, and has a really good market potential. Okay, thanks for me. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
So for the next session that we will discuss is the India's economic transformation. So for the first questions is what kind of economic system did India operate under during 1947 until 1990? What kind of system is it moving toward today? And what are the impediments to completing this transformation? So for the 1947 to 1990 systems, India initially operated as a mixed economy with substantial state ownership and centralized planning. As for the key industries, including heavy manufacturing and utilities, were reserved for state-owned enterprises. And as for the extensive government regulations, production quotas, and high tariffs restricted to private sector growth, as the private sector required government approval to expand, which could take years. So, as for the system today, since the 1991 economic reforms, India has been moving towards a market oriented economy, such as reforms included reducing industrial licensing, opening industries to private and foreign investment, lowering import tariffs, and reducing tax rates, as the India also began privatizing some state-owned enterprises, although state-owned firms still play a significant role in this economy. So for the impediments to completing this transformation, uh, India faces resistance to further reform, such as including oppositions to lowering import tariffs and privatizing more state-owned firms, as the labor laws make it difficult to firms to fire employees, limiting the scale of private enterprises. And some industries are also restricted to small businesses, preventing larger firms from achieving the scale needed to compete internationally. And for the next question is how might widespread public ownership of businesses and extensive government regulation have affected the efficiency of state and private businesses and the rate of new business formation in India during the 1947 to 1990 time frame? And how do you think these factors affected the rate of economic growth in India during this time frame? So we can, for the impact on efficiency, we can classify it into two. The first one is state-owned businesses, as the widespread public ownership likely to lead to inefficiencies due to the limited competition and a lack of profit-driven incentives, as many state-owned enterprises operated at a loss, suggesting they were not efficient or productive. And as for the private businesses, because of strict government regulations and requirements for approval, limited private businesses' ability to diversify or innovate, restricting their growth and efficiency. And as for there's some impact on the new business formation, as extensive regulation and the requirement for government permissions default new business formation and discourage the entrepreneurs, as obtaining approval was time consuming and costly. And as for the impact on the economic growth, so uh, it is likely slowed economic growth during this period, as the state dominance and restricted private sector expansion limited productivity improvements, innovation, and competition, and all of which are essential drivers of economic growth. So it's probably slowing the economic growth to these key productivity of the, yeah.
The next question is how would privatization, deregulation, and the removal of barriers to foreign direct investment affect the efficiency of business, new business formation, and the rate of economic growth in India during the post 1990 period? Privatization shifted many sectors from state control to private ownership, improving operational efficiency. This caused better management practices, innovation, and responded quickly to market needs. The next one is deregulation. This made it easier for businesses to start and expand, leading to increased entrepreneurship and new business formation. Additionally, the removal of barriers to FDI opened the Indian economy to global players, bringing in much needed capital, technology, and expertise. Not only helped in building infrastructure but also created jobs. Overall, those three actions enhanced the competitive landscape of the Indian economy, contributing to a higher rate of economic growth. Another question, India now has pockets of strength in key high technology industries such as software and pharmaceuticals. Why do you think India is developing strength in these areas? How might success in this industry help generate growth in the other sectors of the Indian economy? First, the country has a large, highly skilled, and relatively low-cost labor force, particularly in engineering and information technology. And then the economic reforms of the 1990s encouraged private sector growth and attracted significant foreign investment, which brought in advanced technologies. Also, India's proficiency in English, making it easier to cater to Western markets. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical sector benefited from India's focus on producing generic drugs, leveraging its manufacturing capabilities. As these sectors continue to thrive, they contribute to infrastructure and human capital enhancement, and the development of related industry could be like biotechnology and digital services. The last question for the India's economic transformation. Given what is now occurring in the Indian economy, do you think the country represents an attractive target for inward investment by foreign multinationals selling consumer products, and why? I think the country boasts a large and rapidly growing consumer market with a population of 1.4 billion with a 6.3 yearly growth for middle class, represents one of the largest markets in the world, offering significant growth potential for consumer goods companies. Easier for foreign companies too to enter and operate in India thanks to reduced tariffs and eased regulations. Plus one is economic growth trajectory and ongoing reforms making it a promising destination for multinationals.
Hi, I'm Divya and I will be presenting the first question of the case discussion. So the first question goes like, what are the root causes of Argentina's relatively poor economic performance, and explain on how these causes have actually impacted the country's economic growth rate. So the first root cause would be the high public spending. As we all know, Argentina has been consistently spending more than it earns, and which also leads to the budget deficits and also inflation. So to finance these deficits, what the government did was they resort to printing money, which also led to inflation. So the second root cause would be the populist economic policies. Successive governments, for example the Peronist administrations, have favored policies that actually prioritize the short-term gains and also the social welfare over a long-term economic growth. So this also includes the excessive government spending, price controls, and also the protectionist measures. So this all led to the downfall of the economic growth in Argentina. The last root cause that I would say would be the economic isolationism. So how it actually affects is by protectionist policies and high export taxes have hindered Argentina's integration into global economy, which made the Argentina's economy to be isolated and also limits the export-led growth potential of the Argentina. We'll move on to the impacts. So the first impact would be the inflationary pressures. So how it actually causes the pressure is when the excessive government spending and the money printing to finance the deficits will lead to high inflation, which also decreases the purchasing power of the consumers and discourages investment. And the next impact would be the inefficient resource allocation. Misallocation of resources towards the inefficient state-owned enterprises and also the social programs reduces the productivity of the country and also hinders the economic growth. And then the last impact that I would say is the reduced export opportunities. So how is when the protectionist measures and they led to high export taxes, it limits the country's ability to participate in the global trade, and therefore it reduces its export earnings and also hinders the economic growth. That's all from me, and I pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Good day, doctor. So I'll be answering question 2 for case study. The appeal of Peronism in Argentina remains strong even with a poor economic record due to several social and historical factors, which first will be popular social programs where Peronism introduced healthcare, pensions, and a low-cost housing that improved life for many Argentines, especially working-class people. These benefits create loyalty to Peronism as a protector of workers' rights and welfare. So the second point will be government support and stability. Peronist policies support strong government and intervention in the economy, providing subsidies and job security for many people. This has led many Argentines to see Peronism as a stable force, protecting them from economic challenges. So moving on to the third point, which is national pride and independence. Peronism's focus on nationalizing industries and resisting foreign influence appeals to Argentines who value independence from global powers. This nationalism resonates in a country with a strong sense of identity. Moving on to the fourth point, which is legacy of Juan Perón. Juan Perón's legacy as a charismatic leader who defended the working class has made him a lasting symbol in Argentina. His popularity built the foundation for support for Peronist politicians who aligned themselves with his values. Last but not the least, the last factor will be distrust of alternatives. Attempts by non-Peronist leaders to introduce reforms have often led to crisis and backlash, leading some Argentines to return to Peronism. This cycle reinforced the idea that Peronism, despite its problems, is a more reliable choice. So in summary, Peronism endures in Argentina due its support for social programs, its stance on independence, and the legacy of Juan Perón, making it a lasting force in the country politics. Thank you. So I'll pass the floor to the next presenter, which will be presenting question number 3 of the case study.
Hi, I'm Ilham. So I'm going to present about the question number 3 regarding the cash discussion. So the question sounds like, what policies do you think the government of Alberto Fernandez should pursue? How might this policy help Argentina achieve higher economic growth rates? So, in our opinion, there are four types of policies that Fernandez can use. The first one is budget control, second one is new export policy, the third one is reduced subsidy, and the fourth one is sector diversification and innovation. For the first one, I will explain it briefly. So, about budget control, as my friend explained in the previous slide, Argentina have a really high public spending, so that's why they have a really big deficit between their budget and their spending, because we know the tax revenue in Argentina is quite low since they have the ideology of Peronism that prioritize their middle class civilian, and then because of that, it creates a really big deficit between their expenditure and their income. So that's why the first reason is to control their budget more so that it will help to control the inflation and then restore the investor confidence since because of the increasing of the tax revenue. And then for the second one is the new export policy. As we know, in the case it's also stated that the Argentina government create a policy for export that is personally I think it will make it more difficult for their people to export their products. So that's why I think it is better if they lower their export taxes and then support their agriculture and manufacturing industries. Because in the case they create a specific taxes for this industry. So if they do this, I think Argentina could increase its export revenues and support the economic growth. And then for the third one, it is about reducing subsidies. So in reducing subsidies, I think the better way of Argentina to do this is to gradually reduce the subsidies. Because if they do it like suddenly to decrease it like maybe like for 20%, I think it will be bad for them if they do it like that. So I think the better way to do it is to gradually reduce their subsidies and maybe replace the subsidies with some social action maybe or social program to help their lower class citizen. And then for the last one is about sector diversification and innovation. As we can read in the case, Argentina are more focused on the traditional side sectors like agriculture. So I think it's better for them to invest more and to diversify their sectors, like maybe in technology or education, or maybe they can use some renewable energy so they can create a innovative economic so they can create an inclusive and innovative economic growth.
Next, I'm presenting the 10-point summary of case. What's Argentina? Firstly, 100 years ago, Argentina in South America was one of the most developed countries in the world. Like the United States and Australia, this country was home to many immigrants from Europe. Supported by the strong economic relationship with Europe, the country had developed agriculture and industry, taking advantage of its rich natural resources. However, over the past 70 years, Argentina has experienced various economic crises. As a result, despite it once boasted a GDP on par with Europe, it currently ranks 60th in the world in terms of GDP per capita. Secondly, one of the reasons Argentina was in the economic crisis was that the government has been spending more on public spending than it receives in taxes and other revenues. The government has frequently printed money to finance this budget deficit, which has led to inflation. Next, such high inflation will affect investment in domestic companies, as citizens will convert their funds into a foreign currency that can maintain its value. Similarly, foreign companies are restricted from investing in Argentina. These factors prevent undercapitalized Argentine companies from investing aggressively, thus halting economic growth. The high public spending by the government that led to the economic crisis was due to policies implemented by former Argentine President Juan Perón. For example, they secured healthcare, pensions, and housing allowances for the people, and nationalized private enterprises such as railroads, streetcars, and utilities.
Such mass populist political ideology is called populism. Next, these populist policies raised wages but sharply reduced production, causing inflation to soar. Later, he was forced into exile during the uprising of 1955. Nevertheless, this populism he left still has a significant influence on Argentina's political and economic policies.
Now, adding to the previous points, the practices of popularism by Juan Perón or the Peronists went on over the years several times in Argentina whenever a member of the party was elected. However, in recent years, from the year 2003 to 2015, 45% of the economy was contributed by the government's public spending, as policies that were being implemented by the Peronists were nationalistic in nature. As time went on, the Peronist government started to nationalize many of the big private companies that make up the economy. They started giving out huge subsidies, even at one point causing Argentines to be accustomed to paying one of the lowest electricity bills in the world, as they were seen spending billions on energy subsidies. Public employees also have seen an increase by 60% over the years of 2003 and 2015 due to expanding benefits, causing a spike in payroll and welfare costs by the government. Not only that, they also started to hike up foreign import tariffs in a measure of protecting the inefficient local businesses from foreign competition, basically causing the entire country, to be isolated from the global economy, as it was starting to get unprofitable for foreign businesses to enter the country to do business. However, in 2015, a center-right politician, Mauricio Macri, was elected in the presidency and started his attempt in liberalizing the economy, as warnings were flaring from all around that the country is heading straight into a crisis if the policies were to be kept on by the Argentine government. So he started reducing the foreign import tariffs and energy subsidies, but it proved to not be enough, as he was slow in implementing the policies because he was afraid of public backlash. But public backlash came anyways, as the inflation still exceeded 50% and the economy contracted by 6.2% in 2018, which caused him to lose the next election to a Peronist competitor, which has now returned back to the classic Peronist policies, implementing again, as before, higher subsidies and foreign import tariffs, while defaulting on loans made by the government and shifting the blame to IMF. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's time to wrap up our presentation. Thank you all for listening and hope you guys have a good day. Bye bye. See you next time.